Okay, so I was thinking about some of the challenges that people are running into. I'm hearing a lot about people being on a lot of conference calls, and that being one of the challenges when you have the kids at home and juggling your own work while your spouse is on a conference call or vice versa. Well, I'd like to challenge you about the number of conference calls that are actually being had and the amount of time that you're spending on them. I just came across an interesting report by Doodle. It's a online scheduling tool, and they released the report analyzing over 19 million meetings, and some of the results are really interesting. So let's talk about it. Hi, Melissa Dillon here to interrupt the show real quick to let you know that the second edition of our COVID-19 Ultimate Family Plan has now been released. Go to raisingkindness.org to download your copy of the second edition, which is packed with a step-by-step guide to helping you find clarity and calm in your routine going into the second week of the lockdown period. Also, a huge list of resources to help you through gaining that clarity and calm that you're seeking, and also homeschooling your children, managing work, all that stuff. So please go to raisingkindness.org and download your copy of the second edition today. Now, let's dive into the show. Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and dive into this real quick because of, like I said, I've been hearing a lot of people spending a lot of time on meetings right now. And I think that that ends up kind of being what comes to fruition when we're not always face to face in the corporate world. So, something that I wanted to mention, one little stat that I'll bring up from the report from Doodle before I dive into some recommendations for you. But they reported a $399 billion loss in the United States alone due to poorly organized meetings. Now, I know that a lot of us, especially if we've been in the corporate world for a long time or we're in executive level positions, we already know there are plenty of meetings that are a waste of time. But that's what's so frustrating. Over 40%, according to this report, said that it's really annoying that there are so many wasted meeting time and that you could be spending your time on a lot more important work. So I wanted to give you some recommendations based on, I've got a lot of books for you. So I'm going to list off some books that inspired this episode and my experience with meetings and what my recommendations are today because I think it's important to back me up with this. So Peter Senge is the author, the best-selling author of The Fifth Discipline. So he's a systems theorist. David Allen with Getting Things Done. Dale Carnegie with How to Win Friends and Influence People. Susan Scott who wrote Fierce Conversations. Michael Hyatt who writes a ton of books. I actually have one that just came out, but Free to Focus is one of the big ones. And I think that's where he talks about meetings. Ed Catmull, which is the author, the creator um, of Toy Story and Pixar. He is one of the fathers of Pixar, the founding fathers, and he just wrote Creativity Inc. All of these books I highly recommend, especially if you're a leader in an executive position. And they all say very similar things about being very concise and organized with meetings. So, some recommendations that I'm going to throw at you if it's within your power to either cancel meetings, put off meetings, or really get clear on what the purpose of meetings are, these steps are for you. So, number one is to scrutinize the value of your meetings and get very clear on the prep required ahead of time that's within your control so that you can have a concise, organized, purpose driven meeting. Now, one of the things that I like to do is put the agenda out there ahead of time so that way anyone who's involved in the meeting, and you only invite the people that are very important. So, really thinking clearly about who is important. And if you find that you are someone who's been invited to a meeting and you don't see in the agenda what you can offer, maybe bringing it to the attention of the meeting creator. They may not realize that you're not the right person to invite. So, throwing it out there that maybe you shouldn't be included, throwing it out there that, hey, if you feel like you're not included, please, or that you shouldn't be included, please let me know. So that way you guys are all respecting each other's time and the conversations are limited to only the objective of the meeting, which is point two, knowing your objective very clearly and considering the other attendees and their objectives as well. Think about the departments they belong to. What do you think that they could be bringing to the table that may put a wrench into what your expectations are for the meeting? And now you can't, worry about the analysis paralysis of every single meeting, but just kind of get into the practice of just ahead of time, just determining what is most important and then what's important to the others. That way you can just be prepared in advance. Number three is if more needs to be researched to succeed in your objective. So once you're at the meeting, you realize we don't have enough information here and we need to figure out this information before we can move ahead. Cut the meeting. So I know that a lot of meetings will end up getting dragged out, and then people are doing the research in real time because you're already all together and all that effort was put together to get this meeting together. No, just cut it short. Stop the meeting, especially because you have the kids at home right now, and so does everybody else. So having wasted time in meetings is just not necessary right now. And then when you do cut the meeting short, or if the meeting is complete, at the end of it, get clear on what the next actions are. So the objective at the end, if this is going to be an ongoing meeting, because lots of times, especially if you have a big project, there's going to be another meeting. Make sure everyone's clear on their next steps, and then set the new meeting right then and there. So that way it's just done. So I wanted to address this just to get everybody on the same page with feeling empowered to make these decisions about meetings. So I hope that this helps. I'll go ahead and put a list of all these books in the show notes too, so that you can take a look at them while you're on lockdown. They're also on Audible, and that's how I listen to half of these. And so you might really enjoy those. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. I look forward to talking with you next time, and please do subscribe so that you are notified of the next episode. All right, take care. Talk to you soon.